All right, so recording is on, and I'm going to go ahead and get started. So, hope everyone has prepped everything and is wearing their comfy clothes. At least that's what I'm doing. Not you. Well, you got people coming.
I haven't prepped anything, so I don't. Half of it's in my other fridge, some's in the kitchen. So I'll be running around.
Yeah, and everybody will be at different spots. So that's the beauty of prepping together. We've got the community, and we're going to get started. So, if you got your recipes, I went ahead and put a schedule for me on the microwave just so that I'm accountable to where we're at. We're going to first start off with a verde carne asada, mainly because this is one of those set it and forget it. And I'm going to use my Instapot, but if you need to use a crock pot or slow cooker, go ahead and get that. Here's my vessel for my for my Instapot. And I'm going to go ahead and get the meat out of the fridge. Okay. So I already seasoned my meat generously with a Siete Foods mild taco seasoning packet. And I'm just going to show that for reference as a visual. I use this for everything. It's usually my go-to. There's no preservatives. They use really good clean ingredients, everything you can understand. It controls the sodium. It's my go-to. So I just went ahead and put a generous amount on my beef. So that's what it looks like. And I'm going to go ahead and add it to my Instapot. I'm going to go grab some pliers real quick.
So she already cut up her meat. Is that what you said?
No, I went ahead. I'm going to keep it because I'm going to put it in my Instapot. So I'm just going to leave this as is. And I'm going to, because once it starts to cook really long and slow, it's just going to like tear apart.
Okay, because I couldn't find, I'm not sure I got the right thing. I just got these New York strip.
That's
things.
okay. Whatever.
I was shopping at Trader Joe's. I went to Athens, and this is all I could find.
Yeah, that's okay. Whatever meat you have, because if you're slow cooking it, the meat is going to break apart.
Yeah, because this is kind of thin. I'm afraid it's going to like disintegrate.
Well, if that's the case, because this is way over, I believe this is about 2.5 pounds of what I have on my end. I'm going to keep the directions, but you're depending.
I probably have 1.5 pounds.
Okay, well then you're probably going to slower the cooking time.
Okay.
Okay, good question. All right, so I went ahead and prepped out my onions and garlic. So I've got that, and it was a rough chop because I'm putting in a slow cooker. And just like we talked about with the meat, how things are going to naturally break apart, that's the same thing. The onions and the garlic is going to blend perfectly with the sauce and the meat, and it's going to naturally disintegrate into the mixture. So I put a rough chop in there, and I had some leftover bone broth in the fridge. So for this one, you'll need about 1 cup. Now that for me is about 1/2 cup. So I'm just going to add a little bit of some of this chicken bone broth that I have. And that's okay if you mix meat flavors or use a veggie bone broth, whatever. I go for bone broth because that's extra protein. So I had some leftover chicken bone broth that I'm going to use for our cilantro lime brown rice. I'm just going to put some of that liquid in here. And then the next part is salsa verde. So even if you didn't have the onions or garlic and you didn't want to chop all of that stuff, I'm just using a jar of salsa verde. You can also make this homemade, but that's so much work. I do have a recipe on the blog if you want to make salsa verde homemade. But I'm just going to pour this entire amount in here. So for you, Renee, if you only have 1.5 pounds, you can pour like half, of the mixture so you can save it for another time. So at this point, with the jar and the liquid, my meat is hard to tell, but it's pretty much submerged. I'm going to use my tongs to make sure that it's sitting and they're nice and tight so my Instapot doesn't scream at me. And then I'm going to go ahead and turn my Instapot on for meat for high pressure 50 minutes. And that's going to cook while we're doing the rest of the things. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put this in. And I'm just going to give you a visual, but I've got this. And I'm just going to put meat for more high for 50. And that's where I can just set it and forget it. I will say I make this recipe at least once a week. I cook for clients and it's their ride or die. So with this tip, I want to show you something real quick. In my freezer, because after you're done with that meat mixture, you're going to be left over with a lot of sauce. And this is good because that's a lot of flavor. So if I were to make this, now I didn't show you today because I wanted to use fresh ingredients to go through the normal process. But what I do is I take the beef out of the Instapot and I save the leftover sauce and then I freeze it. So I'll defrost this in the fridge for a full day and then add this into my Instapot with beef if I were to make this recipe again. So that's a great time saver. This is gold because it's already been cooked in and the ingredients and it's been melded in and all that. But I leave it the sauce at room temperature so I can go ahead and put it in a freeze safe container and I put it in the freezer for the next. All right, so that didn't take long at all. It's already 2:11 and we already started the first recipe. All right, so now that's going, I'm going to go ahead and preheat my oven to 425 because now we got to start on our oven recipes, okay? All right, so my oven's preheating. And the reason why I'm doing that, so we're going to start next. We're going to wait on the garnishes because once we have a lot of things in the oven or the rice cooker, Instant Pot, there's going to be some dead time. And that's where we do those garnishes and side things, right? So we can maximize on time. So as you know, we've got a sheet pan recipe, muffins and brownies. We're going to do the brownies and muffins after because both of them are at 350 degrees. The only one that's different is the sheet pan blackened salmon. And so we're going to start that first to get it out of the way. And then we'll do the brownies and the muffins together because they can both fit in the oven at the same time since they're cooking at 20 minutes and at 350. Okay, so that's a great time saver. So let's start with our sheet pan blackened salmon with potatoes and green beans. I'm going to go ahead and get my stuff. All right. So you may not have all this prep like I do. But I definitely want to be efficient and have everything ready. So I pretty much have all of my sheet pan ingredients ready for this next recipe. Now that the oven's preheating, I'm going to start off with the potatoes. So I've got my salmon right here and I had to defrost them. That's why they look kind of weird. So I'm going to set this aside. I've got my seasonings for my salmon. I'm going to put that to the side. I said frozen green beans, but there are some really fresh green beans, actually cheaper than frozen at Aldi. So I just washed these real quick and I'll be using these instead. And then I have my baby potatoes. I went ahead and cut them, some into 4, some in half. But either way, you want to make sure that your potatoes are cut the same size so that they can cook evenly. All right, so I forgot my sheet pan, the tinfoil and parchment paper. I thought I had it. So I'm just going to play rogue for a second and use my baking sheet without a liner. And that's okay because I'm going to grease. It says olive oil, but I have some really good avocado oil. I'm just going to just pour onto the baking sheet about a tablespoon, 1 to 2. And then I'm going to go ahead and get my potatoes down. I'm gonna toss this real quick. I'm gonna get some new tongs. I'm gonna season these first. So I always have some pink Himalayan sea salt readily available. So I'm gonna go ahead and sprinkle over there, over the potatoes. And then some black pepper. Okay. Now I'm just going to toss this in with the oil. Again, if you had a parchment paper tinfoil, that would be better because then you wouldn't have to wash your pan basically, because a tinfoil or parchment would help you as an easier cleanup after everything's cooked. That's fine. Everything's fine. Okay, so all the potatoes are fully coated. And I should have preheated the oven when I started the carne asada, but that's okay. But it's just one of those efficiency reminders that are really good to have, like to know about, so that you can just bam, bam, bam on this meal prep. All right, so I'm going to put this on the oven because we're going to wait until the oven fully preheats. And just looking at the recipe, I'm just going to go down and look what we have to do. So once the potatoes are in, we're going to have an alarm for 20 minutes. So right now, while we're waiting on the oven, I'm going to go ahead and prep my salmon. So some of y'all have already done that. I wanted to wait on that because I knew there was going to be some parts where I needed to do stuff while things were cooking or waiting for the oven to preheat. So for the salmon, you've got your smoked paprika, cumin, garlic, all that. Well, a good time-saving habit is once you're comfortable when making recipes and you know what tastes good, you're very comfortable with seasonings, sometimes you don't have to necessarily follow the directions. When it comes to seasonings for me, I have really good go-to seasonings that I know, okay, if they're calling for cumin or smoked paprika, I have a really good seasoning mix that has those components, and I'm just going to use that instead. So that's what I'm doing. I love the seasoning packet, and instead of having to get like a tablespoon and all that stuff out for these seasonings, I'm just going to sprinkle this on my salmon. That saves a lot of time, but again, I will say that's for people who feel comfortable with their seasonings and what's going to complement, like that seasoning with a cumin, paprika is going to complement a fish really well. So I'm going to go ahead and season my salmon with that. And I do generously just because I love seasonings. I love flavor. And then with your salmon, you've got honey. So I've got a little bit of leftover honey in here. So I'm going to pour that in on the salmon. I think I added her. I don't know if it popped up. I guess we'll see. Oh, there she is. Hello.
Hey.
Hey. I've got it recording, but we're starting on the salmon. We just had the Verde carne asada in an Instapot, or if you have a slow cooker, so that can start first because it's one of those set it and forget it.
Okay.
And now the oven is preheating for the sheet pan salmon blackened potatoes and green beans. And this is also recorded so that you have information prior. Okay, so I'm going to put the rest of this honey on the salmon. I'm going to get a spoon real quick. And if you don't have honey, you can definitely use coconut sugar is really good with salmon. There's a recipe like a spicy salmon with pecans on the blog. That's really good just because coconut sugar really complements the salmon really well. But I have this leftover honey and I want to go ahead and use it. And it's good local raw honey, which is so great for the immune system. Okay, so now that my salmon is prepped, I'm just going to set that aside and throw this away and wash my hands real quick. All right, so it does say to have lemon juice, but when it comes to salmon in a sheet pan, I like to use lemon juice over at the end. Having that last bit of acidity is just on a salmon right after it's out of the oven. So we're gonna wait on the lemon juice after everything's done. And some family members would actually probably cook this tonight so that the family can have this specific recipe for dinner tonight. But if you're gonna prep this, because it is a fish, I would store it at least 2 to 3 days for it to be optimally fresh. You know, I think going past that might be a little too fishy, no pun intended. All right, so I'm gonna put this to the side. And now I'm still waiting on the oven to preheat. How's everybody doing with their food so far? Good? Good.
I did pickled onions.
Oh, you did? Did you already do them? Oh, you did a lot. Yeah.
I doubled it because I love pickled onions and I've never made them. So I'm like, oh, I made extras.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, I didn't have anything else ready. So I had onions sitting here. So
Well, that's perfect because I was going to use this time. I didn't know I would have this much time left over. So I was like, I guess I'll just do pickled onions. And that's what you already did.
are we going to do the muffins?
Yes. We're going to do that after. So if you do have some downtime, that would be really good to prep. I went ahead and chopped up the onions, diced those up, and I've got the sweet potatoes already cubed up. So I'll keep going if you guys want to. Because I'm still waiting on that oven to preheat. I should have started that a lot sooner. But it is good to maximize time. And I think I'll probably do the pickled onions because, well, if you want, we can do the muffins because I'm going to show a different technique on how to do that. If you don't have a muffin tin or you just want to use a different heat container instead of a muffin tin. So I'll go ahead and get started on that because I can multitask. So we're still waiting on the sheet pan. I'll go back to the salmon once that is done. The oven is done preheating. I will actually say, how about we'll do the cilantro lime rice? Because there is some time where this will have to cook for 20 minutes and then we'll have to put the salmon on and move the stuff like the potatoes to the side, put the salmon and green beans on and have that finish cooking before I lower the temperature for the other 2 meals. Okay. So we're just going to do the cilantro lime brown rice. And the one I went to Aldi yesterday and I just got a quick cook brown rice. So you can put this on stovetop, you can microwave it, or you can use a rice cooker. I'm going to go ahead and take out my rice cooker. I love this bad boy. When I was in college, I found out that I had a high sensitivity to gluten, and it was so hard because I felt like I was the only one in college that had that. And so my professor bought me a rice cooker, and this is the same rice cooker. I still have it today. So that's calling my age, but I've had this for 13 years. She was so sweet because I was like, I can't eat anything in the cafeteria. And she's like, oh, honey, I'll get you a rice cooker so you can have in your dorm room. So here it is. So sweet. But I'm going to go use this. So I'm going to get the vessel out. Well, the cool thing is that there was a steamer top on the, so you could cook your rice. And then there was a steamer on top so you could steam green beans, salmon, whatever. And you would have a full meal in college. It was awesome. Oh, there's my oven. So I'm going to go ahead and put the potatoes in for 20 minutes. And make sure that your potatoes are evenly spread out so they can evenly cook. I want to set the timer for 20. Just so that keeps me accountable since we're doing some other stuff. In this time, if you need to though, make sure that we already prepped the salmon, but you can use this time to prep. But I'm going to go ahead and get started on the cilantro lime rice and just talk some little bits about when cooking rice. So I tried to find brown rice that's sprouted, but I will say in this new area in Georgia, it's very hard to find sprouted brown rice. So one way that's really good on the gut and helping to break down and digest is using bone broth as your water source to cook so that you're also adding protein to your rice. And then apple cider vinegar. I just put like a good about a tablespoon for 1 cup of brown rice. Just because that apple cider vinegar, it's that probiotic, it's going to help to break down those starches in the rice so that you can digest it better. Because some people have a hard time digesting rice as I do. So that's what I'm going to use. You don't have to, and it doesn't really change the flavor. Because again, we're going to flavor this rice with cilantro and lime. So I put a cup of rice in my cooker and then 2 cups of my bone broth. And this one is a free range chicken bone broth that I get at Aldi. There's some bone broth companies out there. I know there was one beside it actually at Aldi. But this one is just simple ingredients. It's organic chicken stock, contains organic chicken, right? And it's 9 grams per 1 cup. So very simple, very clean. And then I'm just gonna eyeball some apple cider vinegar in there just for me to help break down. So if brown rice is harder to digest for you, this may be the trick for you. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and set this in the rice cooker. If you need to do this on the stove top. Oh, I froze. Maybe I'll come back on. On my end, it looks like I'm frozen. Do I look okay to y'all?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, you do.
Thanks, Siobhan. All right. I went ahead and turned the rice cooker on. Mine is on white rice because it was the quick one. There we go. I fixed myself. I have an OCD about that because on my end it looked like I was frozen. Okay, so rice is now in there. We've got 17 minutes on the potatoes, and then we're going to add the salmon and your green beans. So those are, and the rice is cooking, and your carne asada is cooking. My kitchen smells so good right now. I don't know about y'all's, but it smells flavorful. All right, so we're pretty much prepped with everything on these ingredients. I'm going to do the juice of the juice and zest of the lime and cilantro afterwards. I also forgot to mention, if you wanted to add some more flavorings like salt and pepper and garlic, go ahead and add that into your liquid rice mixture. Let me actually go ahead and do that on my end because I still have time because I just turned it in on the rice cooker. So I'm going to add some extra seasonings in there real quick. Okay. How is everybody if they want to talk about where they're at? Is everybody pretty much caught up with, we've already got the carne asada in, potatoes are in the oven, rice is already in the rice cooker, stovetop, or microwave. Okay, no, by saying anything, that's probably a good sign. Then we'll keep going. All right, so I am going to pivot. I'm going to go ahead and just be proactive and cut up this lemon. And since I'm meal prepping this, it's just me eating these, eating the sheet pan. I'm going to cut these in 4 slices. That's okay, Lisa. I hope you have a great day. Or yeah, Michelle, sorry, I think Lisa, is that your middle name or is that your first name? I've always wanted to ask you that. Okay, so I'm gonna cut the limes in 4 because I've got 4 filet and these are gonna be like a lunch meal prep. I'll just put them in 4 containers and then I'll just add a lime wedge into each container. So being proactive, I'm gonna go ahead and get some of these excess seeds out and then set these to the side. Okay, put these to the side right here. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and get started on the muffins. Just because I'm pretty much caught up with everything. We'll put the degrees, this is the first name, Michelle, middle, I go by Michelle. Oh, gotcha. Thanks for answering that question. All right, so for the, trying to find the recipe, for the easy egg muffins, we're starting off by dicing the sweet potato. Now I'm using just a regular dish like this for my muffins. Now this is obviously not a muffin tin. When I looked at my actual muffin tin, I noticed that it was rusty. I'm going to throw this away, but I wanted to show you. I've got rust in here, and cooking, if you're not adding a liner or some type of, divider like those silicone muffin liners or whatever, I don't want to cook my ingredients right in here because of the rust, because that's obviously metal toxicity and we don't want that. So I'm actually going to use this as my vessel instead. But if you're going to use a muffin tin, this recipe is the same. I'm just pivoting a little. And because of that, I want to add some oil to the bottom of this so that I can cut it out easier. So I just put about a tablespoon of oil. And I love Chosen pure avocado oil. I have ghee out here. I use that. I've got 100% extra virgin olive oil, cold press from Trader Joe's. I've got grass-fed curry butter, in the fridge. And then I use coconut oil, which you'll see for the brownie recipe. But just as a side note, those are really good cooking oils to use. Now this paper towel has a little bit of wetness to it, so I'm just going to spread the avocado oil mixture so that everything is coated inside this vessel. And then I'm going to set this to the side. I'm going to go ahead and turn the oven on and then get started on my sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes, I cut very finely and evenly. So they're just little diced because it only takes 2 to 3 minutes to cook them up. As most of you guys know, potatoes cook a while if you're cooking in them in the skillet. They make them brown on the outside and then be raw in the middle. So that's why I like to cut these really nice and thin, just because they cook faster. So I want to wait on the pan to warm up. You always want to make sure that your oil, like your source, is hot before you add in an ingredient, especially when you're searing steak. And then I also diced up onion. So that's right here for the second part after I cook down the sweet potatoes because they take the longest time to cook. And then on here, you can use breakfast sausage or chicken sausage link. This is a good time to show some products. So I went to Aldi yesterday and I got the organic spinach with spring greens and garlic chicken sausage. It's gluten-free, nitrate-free. The ingredients are clean. It's literally organic skinless chicken, organic spring greens, water, salt, sea salt, organic dill, and pepper, and all of those are organic. This is a great brand and it's super cheap. I think this was like $3.58 at Aldi. I'll just show you some other things since I'm ahead of the game, and I'll just show you some alternatives. Applegate is another great brand if you can tolerate. These are just their hot dogs because I like them. They're nitrate free. A lot of the kids love it. So if your kids, whoever watches this has kids and they love a good hot dog and you're like, oh, hot dogs are nasty or full of really bad ingredients, this is a very good brand because they're nitrate free, pasture raised, no antibiotics, good clean ingredients. And then they also have these chicken and maple. This is a big container. I love this because it's a big bag. It will last me a good 2-3 weeks. And you can actually get this at Walmart in the freezer section, but it's also a good brand and product. All right. I bet my oil is hot, so I'm going to go ahead and transfer the cubed sweet potatoes into the skillet. Get these going. As a good time saver on making sure that they get evenly cooked, I'm going to put a top over it so that the steam can cook the inside of the sweet potato. So I've got just a little lid I can put up there and have that going. While that's going, I'm going to get a different cutting board because if you're cutting meat, you don't want to cook or to chop down on your produce. I used to have chopping blocks that would be like for meat, for poultry, for veggies, that kind of thing. But I just make sure I have something different. So I'm just going to chop these up. When you are doing the muffins, because it's a smaller, they're smaller vessels, I'm also getting a different cutting knife. Let me get that real quick. You want to make sure that these are cut very tiny so that they can, the mixture can be in the muffins evenly. But I am using just a big vessel where it's kind of like a breakfast casserole basically. So I'm just going to cut them up in little, just chop them up basically. Go ahead and, oh, they smell good. I love sweet potatoes. That going. I got 7 minutes on the potatoes. All right, now I'm going to chop these up. And I like these because they have spinach in it, so that's extra greens, extra flavor because the green onions, the dill, the ground garlic powder. They're really good. And these are lower in sodium too, I believe. Okay. And I'm just roughly dicing these. If you were to turn these into the muffins, they're going to be a smaller bite size than how I have them. These are just roughly chops because they're going into a casserole dish. Okay, so now that's ready. sweet potatoes. And as you can see, if you don't have things prepped before this, I did that just so that I'm ahead of the game, but I'm really over ahead of the game. And that's why I love just creating these recipes, because they're so simple, super flavorful, very healthy, but also very versatile too. I think every recipe I'm not doing any of them verbatim. I'm just doing things based on what I found at the grocery store. Nowadays, especially produce, it's very hard to find exactly everything you have on your grocery list. For me, it was the same way. I had to pivot, and sometimes we don't have time to go to 3-4 different grocery stores, get every ingredient. So just learning how to pivot and being comfortable in the kitchen, finding your palette, mix and match, and do different alternatives based on your food preference and your palate. It's so important when prepping and making meals for yourself throughout the week. All right, I'm gonna get these ready for the oven. These are looking good. I want to season these because you can never season enough. Just putting a little bit of salt and pepper, for just salt. I don't really use pepper that much. The muffins will have everything but the bagel seasoning, so there is pepper in here, I believe. But you just season however you like. The salt and pepper is usually a good general when you're adding different ingredients, like you're layering. Okay. I've got 3 minutes on the oven, and I'm going to go ahead and take out my my fire alarm thing, because it goes off every time my oven is open. It's super sensitive. I say, do you have the same issue, Renee?
Only when my husband cooks.
Well, this thing is so close to the oven that as soon as that thing opens up, the steam just gets it and it just goes off. It went off my last meal prep and I forgot about it. But I'm like, I promise I'm not causing a fire, and I would know how to, extinguish it. It's just so sensitive. Oh, I love that steam. Those sweet potatoes. I'm going to leave that off now, because now that it looks like they're getting soft, now I want a good color on the outside of these sweet potatoes. I want to set that to the side. Grab some water. Also, when you have good downtime, it's good to kind of clean up as you go. That way, when you're done cooking, you don't feel so overwhelmed, because your kitchen just looks like, a tornado just went in and, went crazy. So I'm just cleaning up as I'm going. All right. Someone asked a question?
No, I was talking to my dog.
Oh. All right. So I've got the potatoes out. Oh, they look so good. Nice and crispy, but not fully cooked. Potatoes takes the longest time, and a lot of people know salmon, that's the meat that's the shortest amount of time. So that's why we cooked the potatoes so far for 20 minutes. And then I'm going to put these to the side and add my salmon in the middle and the green beans to the other side. Okay? While that's going on, I'm being mindful that my sweet potatoes are still in the skillet. Oh, you heard it? I forgot I had 2 of them. Okay. Potatoes look good for me, so I'm going to set these to the side while I go ahead and prep the rest for my salmon. So my potatoes, I'm going to put everything to the side. I want to make sure I'm looking at the directions real quick. Okay, so I'm going to add my tongs, put the salmon in the middle. And the pan has already got oil, so I don't need to add any additional oil. Okay, and then I'm gonna add my green beans to the outer edge. And if you have frozen green beans, go ahead and use that. I just had some fresh green beans from yesterday.
Candace, have you ever put the salmon on top of the green beans? Like, would that cook the green beans, like, I don't know, more flavorfully?
Yeah, you definitely could. I think that's a matter, I like my green beans crispy. So having them coated in the excess olive oil from the potatoes,
Ooh.
that's so I like a good crispy, but if you want a good, soft green bean, then having the salmon on top is going to give you that type of that texture. But that's a great idea.
I have to be creative because I don't really have a normal kitchen because we never really finished building one. So I have this little Breville and I cook everything in it. So I'm trying to think, how can I fit all that in there? It seems like it could be okay with the salmon on the green beans. I'm going to try that.
Yeah, I love that. That's actually a very good idea. Let me know how it turns out. All right, so I'm going to season the green beans. Just a little bit of salt. Just something simple. Because we're going to hit it with some acid, some lemon after. Especially if you're eating this tonight for dinner with the family. But just before I put this back in the oven, I want to show you what this looks like. It looks actually very pretty. So I've got the green beans right here to the right, and I coated it. I used the tongs to mix in with the olive oil from the potatoes. Got the salmon in the middle, or you, like Siobhan, you could put it on top of the green beans because things might be a little tight in the oven. And then my potatoes are on this side, but they're also not on top of each other because you still want them to have an even cooking. So they're right nice and flat. Okay. So I'm going to put this back in the oven. And this time they're going to cook for an additional 10 to 20 minutes. So I'm going to set a timer for 15. Get that going. Okay. So now that is going on, I'm going to go back to the the breakfast muffin, or in my case, breakfast casserole, basically. Ooh, it smells so good in here. All right, so I had to put off my burner. I had to put off this because I was dealing with the salmon. But now I'm going to go back and turn the burner back on to medium high. You always want to be mindful of not leaving things on or off. Like, you have to know what your limits are, because I was also multitasking with a sheet pan. I wanted to make sure that the temperature that was off and not overcooking the sweet potatoes. So they're nice and brown, because they're going to keep cooking with the onion mixture, and then we're going to throw in the spinach after. Okay. So now that my sweet potatoes, they're nice and soft, they got a good sear mark, I'm going to add the onions. Hear that noise? It's my favorite. Okay, that is going on. I'll put in the spinach a lot later because y'all know once you put spinach in, it just takes a second and it will cook. So I've got that. I'm also going to, you could also put garlic in there. I know there's like 5 cloves of garlic for the carne asada, so you may still have a bulb of garlic left over. You can definitely add some minced garlic to this mixture if you wanted to. But I've got garlic in the everything but the bagel seasoning, so I'm just going to do that. Toss this over. Okay, we've got that. Okay, so I'm going to chop up my mixed greens a little. This would be very important if you're doing the muffins. So I'm just going to go ahead and open this up. And this was where we were talking about pivoting because there wasn't straight spinach where I was at. So this is a mixed greens with baby spinach, baby chard, and baby green kale. So, you know, that will work. And I got a big old handful and I'm going to chiffon it. So that's just holding everything nice and tight like that. So rolling it nice and tight. You do this with basil. And then you're just going to use your knife and cut straight into slices. Gonna mince it a little. And I love this because not only is it going to give you a nice, beautiful green color into your muffins, but you're just adding extra greens. And it's just a simple way of doing it because you're obviously not going to taste this. Greens doesn't have a potent flavor profile. Very mild, if anything. It kind of, just tastes like water. So why not add greens when you can?
I just want to point out that I really hope I remember to use the phrase a cooked flavor profile. That sounds so fancy. I want to learn how.
Learn how to what?
Phrase. I don't think it really has much of a cooked flavor profile, actually. That was a good one. Dang.
It really doesn't. And that's why I'm like, why don't people cook with it? Because, this is just the easiest way to get greens in. Mild, it just seems funny to me when people are like, I can't get my greens in. I'm like, there's no flavor to this. Add it to anything. Maybe it's a texture thing for people. I don't know. If
So
y'all have any
kids, they could say, oh no, there's not much of a cooked flavor profile. You won't even notice it.
Exactly. Oh, that's funny. All right, I'm gonna add my spinach to the mixture because my onions look translucent, so that's where we want because this will cook in like 2-3 minutes. Very quick. How are we? Oh, wow. It's not even 3 o'clock and we're halfway there. I kind of want to do this every week because it literally takes less than 2 hours to make all of these meals. And my fridge is already full. Like, it's super easy to do all this. And especially if you have accountability and someone, beside you doing it with you. It's so much fun. Okay, that looks great. And this will continue to cook once you transfer it into the muffin tins or the casserole dish and cook it in the oven when we add the egg mixture. So with that said, this is easier doing in a casserole, so I already had greased this. And I'm just going to transfer this mixture in here. If you were doing this in muffin tins, you would just transfer about 1/4 of the mixture in each muffin tin. And then we're going to layer with the chicken or breakfast sausage, depending on what type of protein source you chose. Okay, so I'm going to transfer this back onto the oven. So I got that beautiful first layer. Oh, so gorgeous. And I'm going to cook my chicken sausage in the skillet. Oh, that sizzle is my favorite. Okay. Get that in there. Wash my hands. Okay, I've got 9 minutes for that sheet pan, which is perfect because we're almost done with these muffins. But I'm going to wait on them because I also want to make sure my brownie stuff is ready so I can just go ahead and put them in together. Since this chicken sausage is kind of already pre-cooked, I just want to get a nice sear, and that adds flavor. A little burntness, a lot of crispiness adds some flavor and texture. So that's all I'm doing on the chicken sausage. Okay, well, that's going. We kind of went out of order, but it doesn't matter. However you do it. So on here on my ingredients for the muffins, you do the you go ahead and do the egg mixture, but we're just going to do it now. So I've got a carton of eggs. And what's perfect about this recipe is that we need 9 eggs for the muffins and 3 eggs for the breakfast, for the protein brownies. So that's exactly 1 carton. So I try to make things as easy as possible and that you can use all the ingredients instead of having half of this and half of that in your fridge. So let me transfer this chicken mixture into my casserole dish. So it looks like so nice and brown. It's going to continue cooking in the oven. Okay. Set that back. And this is looking really good. I want to go ahead and mix in the sweet potato mixture with the chicken sausage. And I'm just using my my spatula, nothing fancy. Oh, that looks so good and colorful. So that's the base of these muffins or casserole, however you're doing this recipe. And then now I'm going to go ahead and do my eggs and do my egg mixture. So I'm going to crack 9 eggs in here, add everything but the bagel seasoning, and whisk the mixture to pour over the muffin or your casserole. You just saw it one hand on these egg cracks. I'm trying to work on that, and I have perfected it. This. I've got 5 minutes left on my sheet pan, which is perfect timing. Here. Check for hair. That's how I had a random hair in there. Or eggshells. And remember to leave 3 left in the carton. You know, if you were to do a casserole and you're having a bigger family, you can use a whole carton if you had 3 extra eggs left over for the brownies, obviously. Because that part, it doesn't matter. But I will say, if you're doing exactly the muffin tins, you want to do at least 9, just because they'll get full really fast. Okay, I'm gonna move this to the side because we're gonna use the rest of these eggs for the dessert. All right. And I am very sorry, but I don't ever put like measurements sometimes. I usually eyeball it, and I usually go more in seasoning amount than is on the recipe, just because I love flavor. But I use about a tablespoon or so. I've got a good handful of about tablespoon of the seasoning. I'm just going to add it in. I also like to sprinkle on top for garnish, because the colors of everything but the bagel seasoning is pretty, I think. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and whisk. You could add some cheese to this if you wanted to, or milk. However, the more you add and you're doing the muffins, just be mindful that it may not fit if you're adding more than is on the recipe. But when you're doing a casserole like I am, the sky's the limit, because I have a lot more space in here. Also, with that said, if you found out that, you know, this is a very basic recipe to do muffins, to do these breakfast egg muffins, if you like peppers or zucchini or mushrooms or anything like that, definitely go ahead and have fun with the combos. You don't have to necessarily follow the recipe. Like I said, if you're a veteran and you know what you like, you know, do that. You know, don't follow recipes verbatim. Have some free will into it. Have some creativity and have fun with it. And with that said, I mostly do that because I can't really do tomatoes or peppers. It messes up my stomach. So that's why you don't see peppers in here. But if you love peppers, do peppers. Okay, here's my egg mixture. I don't want to let it, well, y'all know what egg looks like whisked. So I'm going to go ahead and pour it into my casserole dish. Oh, it's so pretty. I'm going to slightly whisk it around, or like spread it in there. Just nice and combined. It smells so good. And then I'm going to garnish it with everything but the bagel seasoning. Now that is going to wait in line for the oven. So I'm going to put this to the side. And now breakfast is almost served. All right. I don't have my fire alarm, so I'm just going to go ahead and open. Oh, that smells so good. And they came out perfect. Look at that. Oh, yeah. Come and look. Yeah. All right. So she. All right. Sheet pan is done. So we got one completed item. I will say, to end off that one, for personal, just for the future, you can read the directions, but just to say, you can serve this with some feta, some cheese if you wanted to. You can have some brown rice. So the brown rice that we're cooking, if you double batched it per se, you could have an additional carb source. With this, obviously you have your potato as your starchy carb source, but if you needed additional carb, that's where brown rice can come into play. And I love squeezing some lemon juice over it, especially because that the salmon. Sprinkle over it some extra salt. And there you go. You could also have some fresh herb like dill. Dill is really good with salmon, or basil. So sheet pan is done. I'm gonna let that cool, and I'm gonna go ahead and drop the temperature on the oven to 350. So if you're at that and you're done with the sheet pan, let's drop to 350. And that it's already preheated, obviously, because it's got a drop in temperature. I'm gonna wait on the breakfast egg muffins or casserole, because I want to go ahead and do the protein brownie so that they can cook at the same time. So this is already waiting for the oven. I'm just setting that to the side. And now I'm going to start on the brownies. Before I start, does anybody have any questions? Cool. All right, moving some things away. How are we on time? Oh, we're doing great on time. We might be done early, y'all. It's only 3:06. And all we have left, we got some things to finish off the rest of the meals, but we just have the brownies, pickled onions, and then the garnishes so far. And we're almost done. Whoop, whoop. All right, so for the protein brownies, I've got my ingredients ready. Not completely, but. So here's my, well, on my end it looks frozen, so I want to fix that real quick. All right, so this is an 8x8. I obviously don't have parchment paper. I said that earlier. So I'm going to spray this really generously with some avocado oil spray. So I'm going to do that over the kitchen sink real quick so I don't get oil outside of my baking pan. Okay, now that's good. And I sprayed the edges as well. That is ready. I'm going to set this to the side. Let's see. Okay. So for the dry mixture, I've got protein powder, and I'll go ahead and show these products since I have a lot of time. I use Prime Protein. I use it because it's the grass-fed beef isolate protein that's free of gluten, dairy, whey, soy, hormones, all that artificial sweetener and preservative. It's super clean ingredients. It's literally grass-fed beef protein, organic coconut cream powder, organic natural flavor, and stevia. So this is my go-to. I don't have the chocolate, but I added extra cocoa powder. So it's like my chocolate protein powder. So again, you can pivot if you need to. I also have strawberry protein powder. So that would actually been better. It'd be like a strawberry chocolate, like a chocolate covered strawberry brownie. So just use what you have. Cocoa powder, I'll show you that. It's organic cocoa. For sea salt, we added that in, baking powder, almond flour. So when we were doing the kitchen clean out, I organized my powders. So like my flours and my grains, and I put it in a clear container. So the almond flour is this brand. It's just Bob's Super Fine Almond Flour. You can get that at Ingles, Publix, Kroger, just general grocery stores. So I've got that in there. So those are all my dry ingredients. I'm going to set that to the side. And now in my large mixing bowl, I've got coconut sugar in here. And this is a coconut oil. I'm going to remelt this because I didn't put in here, but it's half a cup coconut oil. It's supposed to be melted so that it can mix easier. So I'm going to go ahead and nuke this in the microwave for 30 seconds because it kind of went back to room temperature since I prepped earlier. Let me put this in here real quick. $30 should be fine. Start cleaning up. All right. Then I've got vanilla extract. So I've got this right here. This is about 2 teaspoons. 1, 2. I'm really bad at eyeballing, but I'm usually pretty good at it just because I've done this for so long. But that's 2 teaspoons. Now my coconut oil is melted. It only takes 30-second bursts. I'm going to go ahead and pour that in there. And I'm going to go ahead and mix it in with the coconut sugar before I add the eggs so that the eggs don't curdle, like they don't start cooking. Because once you apply heat to eggs when you're baking, you want to control the temperature. Because I want the eggs to cook in with the mixture in the oven and not as we're developing and adding separate ingredients. All right. So now that it's mixed in with the coconut sugar, I'm going to add the eggs as a last liquid ingredient. I'm simply getting the 3 eggs from the carton that we use the egg muffins for. Getting all that yolk. Ooh, got some eggshells on those. Okay, let me grab those little bits. Okay, put this to the side and wash my hands real quick. Okay. All right, now I'm going to whisk the liquid ingredients. Let me double check on my stuff because when it does come to baking, I definitely want to make sure I'm exact. And I've got all the ingredients, but in the liquid, we've got coconut sugar, egg, oil, and vanilla extract. And the reason why I have the coconut sugar is that heat from the oil, when I reheated it to melt it, can bind to the coconut sugar, break down the coconut sugar. It takes a while for it to, coconut sugar is a little different than pure cane. So that's why I added in with the coconut oil so it can kind of heat it up before and start creating that beautiful like molasses texture. So you see that texture like that with the eggs, and it's not cooking the eggs. Now I'm going to slowly add the dry ingredients and just whisk as I go, just how you normally do when you're baking. Make sure I get all the good bits out. Oh, this smells so good. Ooh, I haven't had a brownie in a hot minute. I haven't craved it, but I wanted a lot of people ask for healthy dessert recipes. So I was like, well, I guess I'll have a brownie since I don't know when the last time I had a brownie. I'm not going to lie. Make sure I get down the sides. Oh, that's a good, nice consistency. See that? Nice and fudgy. I had one of our members did this last night because she had to go out of town today, and she sent me pictures of the kids eating the brownies. So these are definite kid approved brownies for sure. They were hilarious in the pictures. All right, that is a sign of my rice cooker, so I'm going to turn that off. So rice for me is done. Okay. And it looks like I got 4 minutes on my Instapot, so that's going to be done soon. This is what the brownie mixture looks like. Looks beautiful. You see those ribbons? Oh, yeah. So you want that consistency for your brownies. And then now the fun part, adding chocolate chips. So I'm doing dark chocolate chunks. And these are gluten-free, dairy-free, you know, all the clean ingredients. So I'm just going to add, what did I say, half a cup? Yeah, half a cup of dark chocolate. And this is something you can eyeball or just, you know, definitely go by the measurements. I'm going to cut this real quick. Okay. Oh, I love these because they're the chunks. Okay. Got about half a cup. And I'm going to use the remainder or a little bit to garnish on top. So I'm just going to gently fold. I could have switched this out of the whisk to get a spatula to fold it in. So I might actually do that because when I transfer that over, I want to make sure I get all those good bits off out of the bowl. So I'm going to go ahead and get these out real quick. Okay. Now I want to continue folding in the chips like that, just so that they're evenly distributed. Oh yeah. So then that's the ultimate texture we want. And then I'm going to transfer this into our 8x8. Here we are. Okay, so spatula is really good because then it just kisses the entire bowl and takes every amount of product with it. And a good dump fest like that. Oh, beautiful. And this smells so good. Do we have anyone? Oh. Okay, so that is good. Clean bowl. Love that. And I'm going to go ahead and evenly spread out the brownie mixture. Oh, this looks so good. Yeah, one of the clients who did this yesterday, she did what I told, like you can pair it with some plain Greek yogurt and fresh berries as like a healthy dessert or even a snack because there's protein in here.
They literally came in here and like laid down and passed out within seconds. That was the weirdest thing. That's the weirdest thing.
All right. That is the steamer from the Instapot, if you can hear that. But I'm going to garnish some extra chunks over.
That looks so good.
I cannot wait for this when it's ready. All right. So we've got our brownies ready. And we've got our egg muffin mixture. So this is the casserole version to the muffins. These are both ready for the oven at 350 for 20 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, set my timer. I'm going to go ahead and put 22 because the brownies take 22 minutes and the breakfast muffins take 20 to 25. So 22 is a good mixture, especially when both are cooked in together. That should be perfect. But we'll keep an eye on it. There should be good. So now we have the garnishes and side items to do, and then that's it. Put this aside. This would be a fun thing if you melted this with additional coconut oil, and you could, after the protein brownies are done at room temperature, you can drizzle the chocolate over. So like how I did in the picture with some good flaky sea salt. And I love a Malden salt. It's just my favorite. That's the food photographer in me, but it's so good. I love salt with any brownie or dessert because it enhances the sweetness. So that is a fun little trick. I'm going to clean up real quick just to kind of move things out of the way. We're going to do the pickled onions. And if y'all have any questions, right now is a good transition time because 2 of our ingredients are in the oven right now. My Instant Pot just turned off for the carne asada. The rice cooker is done. The sheet pan's done. Like, we're doing really good. Okay. Fun fact, I have zero feeling in my hands because of the years of cooking. So this just came out of the rice cooker. But we're going to put this down on a cork, warmer. And we're going to get started on the cilantro and the lime for the rice. Okay, put these away for a second.
Candace, I'm gonna log off because I need to run.
Mhm.
I gotta play some pickleball.
Oh, fun. I love pickleball.
So I will watch the video and finish the rest of my stuff up. So it was
Okay.
nice to see you. Nice to meet you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Enjoy.
Nice to see you and meet you as well, Renee.
All right. Enjoy.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Now, if I can figure out how to get out of here.
I think you hit that red button at the bottom to end the call.
Well, there's one at the top. Oh, that's recording. Never mind.
Should be a red button right down there.
Okay.
She found it. All right, so I'm going to dress up our rice and do cilantro lime. So I've got some fresh cilantro right here. And I'm just going to tear off a little because we're using the other the pieces bunched from the cilantro for the carne asada. So I've got like about like a half a cup worth. And then I'm going to just mince it up real quick into nice and tiny bits. Okay. We're going to add that to the rice mixture. And then I've got a lime. Let me get my lime juicer real quick. I'm going to go ahead and zest this first. When you have a lime, especially when limes and lemons are so expensive now, they're like almost $1 a piece, you want to use every bit of it. And the way, like we talked about, the salt enhances the sweetness of a dessert, the zest does the same thing for our savory. So we want to use the zest and the lime juice of our citrus fruits. Okay. So I've got a zester right here. I'm just going to zest right into the pot. And you just want to go until you see the white, and then you move on. And you just go around in circle. This is really good at the end, especially if you're making a salad, something that's not cooked. Or if you're making lemon bars or some type of citrus thing like that. It's so fresh to have some citrus zest as a garnish for those dishes. It's also really good in dressings. I love it. And it smells so good. Okay. Get the last bits of that. Okay. Then I'm going to cut this up. some juice in here. Oh, it smells so good. And I love flavor, so I'm putting the entire juice and lime, or the entire lime in this. I just think the more flavor, the better, you know. There you go. Okay, so now our rice is done. I'm just going to mix this up real quick. Use a fork to fluff it up. I'm just going to mix it in there. Oh, it smells so good. Okay, that is done. We're going to put that to the side. I'm going to wipe this down real quick. I'm going to show you a fun trick. Well, before I show you the trick, I want to go ahead and start the pickled onions because I forgot there's an element of warming up the liquid. So I've got a tablespoon of raw cane sugar in here. You can also use honey and 3/4 cup of distilled white vinegar. You could also use apple cider vinegar. And I'm going to put this on an eye and heat it up for about medium high heat. And that is just to warm up, to melt the sugar. And while I'm warming it, it speeds the process of pickling the onions. You don't have to do that, especially, you know, if you know you're not going to have the pickled onions today or whatnot, and you don't mind that they slowly pickle with time, the heat element just escalates that time to pickle. So we've got the 1/4 filtered water. I'm going to pour that on top over. Oh, and there's also some sea salt in there as well. We've got some salt, some sugar, and then the acid from the vinegar. Let me grab a mandolin and a mason jar. I love this kind of mason jar, and this is just using, I believe this will fit in here. You may have to do more. I know Renee had a whole container because I think she made like maybe 3 or 4 onions, and so she had a bigger container. But I will say, even when you wash these, they can kind of smell a little vinegary. So I know after I wash something, I know, okay, this is my pickled onion jar. And I always know because I have like an old sticker on here. Just because it's, I don't know, they definitely have a distinct smell to them. Now, you can cut this and slice it up old-fashioned, or you can save time and use a mandolin slicer. So let me go ahead and show both. So I'm just going to cut halfway down from stem to stem, not the other way, not halfway, like not this way, but from one edge to the other. And I'm just going to slice off one edge so I can peel back easily, just like that. Just take that first initial layer off. And you may even have to the other layer if it feels rubbery. But this one's great. So I'm just going to take down this hard shell. So the easy way, and I've got this on the thin slice mode, is I'm taking this part and I'm just swiping down. And this is really good. I know if I wear my glasses versus contacts, I will cry instantly. So this just expedites that process of having to have those oils come out and expose and create, you know, the crying part. So I'm just going straight up and down. You know, if you need to protect yourself, I would if you're not, you know, you don't feel 100% with a mandolin. But I kind of know when I'm getting close to the edge, like this. And there we go. That didn't take long at all. And this is half of the amount, and they're evenly cut. It's perfect. All right. I'm turning this off. It should be done boiling. And it shouldn't actually be fully boiling. I just didn't watch it. But we're going to set that off to kind of cool down. I'm going to go ahead and put the onion mixture into the jar. And then go ahead and do the other half. And I love pickled onions because they're so versatile. You can pair these with your muffins or the egg casserole. You're pairing it with a carne asada, tostadas, if you did that, or the burrito bowl. You can also add it with a sheet pan. Pickled onions, it goes really well with fish. So this is super versatile. It can also go with other meals that you have on hand. Makes it great as a salad topper, a sandwich topper, anything really. The sky's the limit on pickled onions. Okay, now I'm going to follow that method again. Move to the side. Okay. And that is done. Did not take long at all. All right, I'm going to stuff these bad boys in here. And if you need a bigger vessel, that's totally fine. It's just me, so I may actually save this because I do like fresh red onions and have it for my dinner tonight. If this all doesn't fit in here, which I think it will, but you know, again, you can have options. You don't have to follow a recipe verbatim, or you can be flexible with things. You could also add some jalapenos. So if you do like spice, you could add sliced jalapeno slices in here, or even some black peppers to give it some extra spice, garlic. You can get creative with this. All right, now this is full to the brim, basically. I'm just going to pour over the mixture. Well, I'm going to add some water to this so I can cool it down. It looks pretty hot. Let me grab my filtered water real quick. I had to put it in here so I had space in the kitchen. Okay. And that's the additional 1/4 cup of filtered water. And I'm just going to pour this in here. And I love heating it up because this will automatically start turning pink. You can't see it on here, but it will slowly turn pink, which expedites the pickling process. And if you have a little excess, that's fine. And then I'm just going to tight seal this. Where's my top dough? Right here. Let's see. Okay, perfect. So now we got this, and then you go ahead and shake it a little, and these are ready. I would hold this at like once the liquid mixture kind of cools down at room temperature, then you can put this in the fridge and it can store up to, I don't know, 2 to 4 weeks. Pretty long time. All right, pickled onions are done. I'm going to go ahead and put everything, the produce, like extra garbage from the produce on my cutting board so I can just throw it right into the trash can real quick. And then we're going to do the radishes. And then by that point, the brownies should be done. Wash my hands. Oh, I can smell the brownies. Oh, they smell so good. All right. So I washed some radishes, and I'll show you something real quick. But I have 2 different cleaning washes. So here's a fruit and veggie clean that you can use if you're not doing like distilled vinegar, water, that sort of like basic do it yourself. Trader Joe's also has a very good wash as well for fruits and veggies. So I use these products just because I don't have time to go old fashioned. I know you can find really good, simple recipes online or on social media. So you can obviously opt for that. But these are just really quick things I use. So I did that with my radishes. And now I'm going to use a mandolin slicer to cut this up as well. The mandolin, when it comes to produce, saves so much time. It's crazy. So I'm just cut the end off of that radish because it looked a little brown. And we're using the same method. If people like ASMR or like, you know, watching those kind of things, you'll love this mandolin. It's so much fun. And just look at the uniformity. Like, it's perfect. And that didn't take you long at all. People are going to think, wow, you cut that? You're like, yeah. And you just used a mandolin. And it took you like a second to do. So these are for the carne asada burrito bowls. I love radishes. People don't use them enough. You can actually roast radishes if you want to, but they give it a good peppery flavor. It's kind of like the arugula to the lettuce. It just gives you a good crunch, a good bite, and a good peppery component to the dish. Okay. So I've got that, and I'll just do one more. And if anybody has questions right now, I've got 6 minutes left on the brownie and the muffin. So we're almost done with this. And it's already 3:37. Okay. That. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut up my lime wedges. These are going to be the cool ingredients that you're going to have to the side when you're building your carne asada bowl. So if you're doing that as a meal prep, what I would do is have a separate container for the things that need to be reheated and the ones that don't need. So the carne asada, the meat aspect, well, let me show you what that looks like. So again, I have no filling in my hands, but this is what the asada mixture, so you can see it's very liquidy. So remember that once you take that beef out and you shred it out with a fork, you'll have leftover juice that you can keep at room temperature and store in a airtight container and put it in the freezer when you want to make this recipe again. Because there's so much flavor in this, you will want to do that. So the carne asada is the only, like, the meat part is what you'll reheat, and you can have your brown rice with the meat. In a separate container, you'll have your radishes, a lime wedge, the cotija or feta or whatever cheese component you have, and then your cilantro. And if you're not doing brown rice, you don't have to. There's other options, obviously. You could do cauliflower rice. You could just omit that altogether. You could use tortillas. You could use like Siete Foods chips. I love Siete Foods because they're grain-free. There's so many things you can do with those burrito bowls. You don't necessarily have to follow the recipe verbatim in all the ingredients, but it is a good start. All right, so we got these components, and this is already getting a lighter color, which is awesome. And we got our cilantro. We got 3 minutes left on the brownies. I think we're done, guys. Does anybody have any questions so far? Nobody? Quiet? Okay, that's a good thing. How is everybody so far? Hey, Siobhan.
Hey, my question is, once you've done the fabulous job of creating all this, I'm not really sure how to store it so that I can use it well throughout the week. Are you going to touch on that?
Yeah, and I can definitely do that because what I like to do, after a prep like this, I like to leave everything and keep it at room temperature before I transfer them in a meal prep container and go straight in the fridge. So for this sheet pan, I may leave this out. Let's just say I had a family and this was our dinner for tonight. I would just leave that out and wait until dinner time and they could eat straight off the pan. But if I were to prep that, let me grab meal prep containers. I store them in here. So I will have a glass container. Well, I will divvy those up by fourths and add, 1/4 of the potato mixture, the salmon fillet, the green beans, maybe add some additional brown rice for extra carbs, and then possibly store a lime wedge either on top, and remember to take it out when I reheat this in the microwave if I were to have like a regular 9 to 5 job, right? Or if I'm going home and having to use a microwave, I'll just take this out and pour this over after everything's done reheated, or I'll just pour this mixture into a skillet and reheat it that way. You could also have some fresh like herbs with it, like you could do cilantro with that. Basil and dill would be really good with this sheet pan recipe. I put notes in that for that. But yeah, or you can store your fresh ingredients in, like I have a stasher bag, and I would store that in here. So if I were to do the carne asada as another example, I would do like a good handful of the radishes, the lime wedge, the cilantro, and maybe even this, because I could just pour all that onto my meal prep that had the brown rice and the carne asada beef. Does that help?
That's fantastic. Thanks.
Those are great questions. Oh, perfect timing. Good, I can turn the oven off because it got hot in here really fast. All right, I'm gonna make way for this real quick. Oh, yes. So the brownies rose up beautifully. Look, they rose like by half. They look gorgeous. They smell amazing. If only you could have like a smell thing, like you see the visual, but you can smell. So those look good. Oh yeah. And the eggs smell and look good too. And you can always tell by using a toothpick and insert in the middle. You can also check by the jiggliness. This is pretty solid. So I know that I just need to leave this out to rest. Leave it to rest at room temperature and then transfer into your meal prep containers. Okay. So we've got the rice cooked, the carne asada. I'm going to let that cool before I take the meat out and then use a fork just to fork it out. Because at that point, because we slow cooked it, it should come out very tender. And so it's just going to be easy to chop up. I've got the sides and garnishes for the rest of the ingredients, or for the rest of the meals. And I think we're good, y'all. Do y'all have any questions?
Can I ask you one more question?
Yes, please. I love questions.
Okay, so I was a little behind, but I just finished my pickled onions, and I had it looks like I'm gonna have to add a pretty gosh darn good amount of water to make it submerged fully, like it says in the recipe. So it needs to be fully covered with the fluid, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll just keep that water. Is that part of the plan? Is like it's gonna need water when you put those quantities of vinegar and honey and sea salt together, or you think mine's gonna be really like not very flavorful?
Well, you want to make sure those components are 3/4 of your liquid mixture. Because sometimes when it's on the oven, like you saw mine, it was ended up boiling. So it was bringing down the amount, like as the liquid was in there, it was evaporating because it was boiling off. And so then that's where I added a little bit more water. But you want a good about a 3/4 of that mixture in there so that it is flavorful. Because sometimes when people eat pickled onions, it's like, oh, this is too sour. But the honey is going to give it a balance as well as the salt.
All right. Well, I'll just give it my best shot because I don't have any more vinegar. So
Oh.
this is
Oh. And
Well,
you could do it at room temperature too. You don't have to warm it up on the stovetop too.
okay. Well, I will think about that for the next time.
Cool. Sounds good. All right. So we do have some time back. I know I asked for questions, but I don't know where everybody else is at. But it is 3:46. We have some time back because we ended up getting it all done. But if y'all don't have any questions, what I'll do is I'll end this call. And as soon as it takes a good an hour or two, because it is a 2-hour recorded call for Google to upload it and send to me. And so as soon as that's done, I will send you guys the recording, the re-recording, and have that in for if you're a program member, that will be in your module for this week. Or if you purchase this this class, that will be sent to you via email. I would like to do more of these, more than once a month. If everyone could possibly be interested in that, please let me know. And if you know of any family members or friends that could benefit from this, definitely let them know as well, because we definitely want to reach out to people and help them prep, because it is super easy. We just cooked all these meals in less than 2 hours. So if y'all don't have any questions, then I'm going to go ahead and sign off.
Thank you so much. I always enjoy this. Too bad I didn't get to cook alongside you this time, but I plan to do it next time.
Oh, well, I'm so glad that you're at least on here. Just having people here in general, I love that accountability aspect. So I'm glad that you're here and that, Lindsay and Siobhan, and when Renee is on here, I just love the community aspect of this. All right. Well, hopefully we'll do some of these more than once a month. Definitely let me know. If not, I will end this call, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your Sunday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, Candace.
Bye, Lindsay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Dr. Seawright.